Hello there, team. In this session, what we're going to talk about is inner authority. If you're a leader and you want to be at your best, if you want to make decisions, if you want to create an internal voice that guides you so you don't have to keep giving yourself over to bosses, external mentorship, all these things that we seek when we are feeling a little bit lost and we are often unsure about where to turn, we need to build inner authority. And what I want to share with you is my discovery of inner authority and how you can use some of the experience that I had to help you build the amplification tools for inner authority and what will happen when you do. So I want to take you back to the start of my men's work journey when I was around about 30 years old. And what I noticed about a large part of my persona, my personality, is that I continually sought mentoring, coaching, bosses, people outside of me to tell me what to do or help me find find where I was going. Now, yes, absolutely, coaching, mentoring is helpful. Having a boss can guide you. But the problem being is that when we're a leader, and we keep looking to the external world to tell us what to do, to guide us, to validate us, this is problematic for a leader because you're the person that people are turning to for guidance. And if you're lost within yourself, if you haven't got your own personal navigation system switched on, you're going to be working from a weakened stance. And what I realized is that I actually had daddy issues. And what I mean by this, and my father is a great guy, great dad. My mum is a great mum and a great woman. However, one of the problems I had growing up is they were divorced very early in my, I think I was like 4 or 5 years old, maybe not even that old. And the problem being is that inner authority relies on the internalized father within a person, whether that's a man or a woman. When I was a very, very young child, I'd internalized my relationship with my father in a very wounded, not great way from the narrative I had received from my mother about my father. Now, my mother could have said 100 great things about my dad, but the 5-10 things she would have said that were negative, stuck, they imprinted. And this is what happens with children, is that you could say 100, 200, 1,000 great things about someone, but they will remember the negative because we remember the negative. We need to remember the brain. Negative sticks like Velcro, positive sticks like Teflon. And I remember that a lot of the narrative that my mum made up about my dad was being like my dad was a bad thing, even just the way that she said, you're just like your father. That the way she said that was negative. Like, when you are like your dad, that's a bad thing. So my 7-year-old, 6-year-old childlike brain made a decision. Don't be like your dad. Don't be masculine in the ways that he is masculine. So my relationship with my masculinity was somewhat damaged. And the problem being is that went undetected for so many years. And I was a great leader, like amongst my friends, amongst my peers, and amongst my, I grew up leading people. I went on leadership courses as a young boy in school and all these things that I was a born leader. But the problem being there were some parts of my leadership which were still not whole. And what I started to learn, especially as I went through my 20s, is that I didn't like making decisions. I didn't like relying on my own internal guidance system. I would always go and find what someone else had done. And I was also very reactive. And the problem being is that if that perpetuates, I'm not going to lead in my fullness. And what I started to notice, and especially when I went through some really hard times between 29 and 32, is that I really needed this part of me to show up. And this is something that I think that a lot of people go through. When big parts of your life start to go a bit awry, upside down, fall apart, it's your internal authority, your internal guidance system, your internal discipline system that you need to have switched on. And in all fairness, this is when actually a huge part of my life changes. First and foremost, my dad showed up for me. My dad was incredible through. I got divorced. My business started to go up and down. I moved house. All these things all happened within a 6-month period. And my dad really showed up for me. So not only did he physically show up for me, I really started to learn that there was so many parts of my dad and my dad's masculinity that I'd missed out. And I was like, why don't I show up like him in this way? Why am I not organized in this area like he is? And the honest answer was he was absent because he wasn't in the home. He wasn't in my home growing up. So I hadn't had that exposure. Now, do I blame that? Do I worry about that? No, but I knew that I had to do the work on this part. I needed to first of all heal that wound, and then also build an internal fathering structure. Now, this is the thing that I learned, is that when I had a fantastic mentor over the last, say, 4 or 5 years, Yassine, and he said to me one day, "Ben, I'm not your father." And I took that really I thought, why is he saying it like that? And I got really not offended, but I got really angry with him. I was like, never said you were my dad. But what he actually meant when he said that is that I'm not here to make decisions for you. You need to learn to father yourself. Your dad isn't even your dad now. He's not there to father you. You've got to learn to father yourself. Heard that same thing from my therapist, and I started to, see it emerge in some of the books I was reading as well. It's like a man becomes a man when he's learned to father himself. And if you think about even a woman is a grown-ass woman when she's learned to father herself. She's got her own guidance systems. The problem being is if we don't learn that process, we're constantly looking outside of ourselves to be told what to do, to be told the direction we should go in, to make decisions for us. And that puts us in a really, I would say, victim stance of the world. We're always at the mercy to external, victim to other people's decisions, wants, needs for us, etc. So what that really started to tell me is that not only did I struggle this, and I was coaching loads of guys at the time, I could see the same characteristics. I could see the same traits. Overly feminized men, absent father. They hadn't, they'd been in leadership positions, but they weren't making decisions. And so I started to really work on this myself and came across the work of Phil Stutz. So Phil Stutz has been kind of my guru for the last couple of years. I really look at the stuff he's done because it's so pragmatic, useful, and it relates to so many of the struggles that I had. And one day I heard him talk about inner authority. And what it was just building this internal guidance system where you turn towards your whole self, your shadow, and you shut out the noise of the external world. And that's what I realized I needed to do as a leader. And this is what I realized so many people needed to do as leaders as well. They needed to stop looking to the external world to help them make decisions, to help them validate themselves, to help them move forward. So I think what happens is when we haven't got inner authority, first of all, we have a fairly reactive orientation to life. So you're reacting to people all the time. You won't make decisions. Like I said before, you will not make decisions because you're not the decision maker. You're not the parent, you're the child. And what you'll probably do, and I noticed this in the fitness transformation world, is clients would come through my door and like, "Ben, tell me what to do." So they would pay me as a coach, not just to coach them and help them make decisions. They wanted me to make decisions. And some of my clients, they actually get really frustrated with me sometimes. They're like, "Ben, can you just tell me what to do?" And I'm like, that's not my job. That's not my role, because me telling you what to do in the short term is going to sabotage your inner authority in the long term. I can help guide you to the right decision for you, but you've ultimately got to make the decision. And finally, that if you do not work on this part of you, your internal compass will be broken. You'll just find that you don't know where you're going, you don't know what you want. And when you have to turn inside and ask that question, you're so used to getting guidance from other people, told what to do, what you should do from your parents. Like, another way to look at this as well is if you've got a parent that's too guiding, tells you what to do too much, you won't have a well-developed inner authority. Like, think about this. If you've got parents that have told you what to do your whole life, how are you ever going to develop any inner authority? Like, this is what I want. This is my life. And I worked again with so many men that had this problem because it was a family business, because It was a family structure. That's how they operate in the family. People told each other what to do. People struggled. And when it comes to leadership, if you can't have, or if you don't have an internal guidance system, you're going to be lost, and people will not follow lost leaders. So that was really, really, like a big insight for me, especially seeing it in clients and having seen it in myself. So let's kind of just dive a little bit deeper into inner authority and how to create it. So if we see it as an internalized father-like voice, what it does is it keeps us accountable, it keeps us doing hard things, and it keeps us pushing into things like risk. Now, if I look at every time I take Effie and Indy on their bikes and the scooters, I will let them fall. I will let them make the mistakes. I will let them fall and get back up. Obviously, the risk, I'm not going to let them fall and hurt themselves super bad, but I let them just kind of experience the journey and let them take risks to improve. When I go with Poppy, Poppy will be way more comfort driven, way more supportive, doesn't want them to hurt themselves because she comes from the feminine. That's why we're a great team. And what a father figure there is there to do is to help you just nudge into pain, risk, uncertainty, and just be there that everything's going to be okay. And actually, I remember back to my plant medicine journey, I just saw these two very, very clear archetypal figures, the mother and the father. And the father figure was like, Ben, I'm always here for you. I'm always here to support you. You can keep pushing. I'm always going to be here to support you, like my dad always has been. It was amazing. And equally on the other side, I had that soft, comforting, supportive, feminine figure of the archetypal mother. And I could see him clearly as, I don't want to go too much into it today, but I just remember seeing those two archetypes so clearly. And I was like, my mum, my dad were always there for me. But inside of me, I've got these two very strong archetypal figures guiding me. My father-like figure that helps me push into risk, helps me push forward, make decisions, and my mother type archetype, which is there for me to be loving and supporting and helping to myself when I'm hurting or I need some rest. And just seeing those really clearly was what gave me so much, I would just say, an inner authority. I was like, okay, I have got these parts of myself. So this is the first point about inner authority. It comes from within, not from outside. And this is what we've got to do, is that you put when you really start to develop inner authority, you put or focus back in on yourself. Instead of this outside in creation of your world, you create your world from inside out. And what this means is that you don't want to have anyone else's structure imposed upon you. You create structure and you follow it. And that's the thing, is you have the discipline and the challenge and the love, what I would call the tough love, to hold you to your discipline. Because what I've noticed, and especially in terms of like self-development, so many people will follow people's blueprints, like some people's journals and diaries, and that's somebody else's structure. Now, yes, it will give you an idea of how to build a structure, which is sometimes what we actually need. But long term, you've got to be able to build and impose your own structure upon your life. And that's called structural discipline. The second thing is that inner authority is enhanced or amplified by being disciplined. And there's three types of discipline. There's structural discipline, is that holding yourself accountable to your structure, doing the things that you said you're going to do, bringing yourself back to your structure when you get a little bit lost, is part of building inner authority. The second one is reactive. Managing your mind, what I call higher level mind management skills. It's that ability to bring yourself back onto track, not following emotions too much, not being reactive, being disciplined around your thoughts and your behaviors, separating how you feel and what you do. And the third one is expansive discipline. It's the ability to make that hard decision and take that hard path. So not only just thinking about doing hard things, actually doing them. Not thinking that I should have a hard conversation, actually having it. Not committing to something and not putting the action there, it's actually doing it. And having those three types of discipline will start to improve inner authority, because you start to begin to trust yourself. Not only can you guide yourself, is that when you guide yourself, you command yourself, you obey yourself as well. Again, it's going to build inner authority. It's going to make you a much, much better leader. The third thing that we're trying to do by building inner authority is remove the need for external validation. Now, think about this problematically in think about this in, let me start again. Think about this in terms of the modern day world. We place external validation probably at the highest point. Likes, comments, shares, people giving us a pat on the back. What we want to do is that people without inner authority seek external validation. We want to improve internal validation. Now, there is a process for this, and this is something I learned over the last 6 months. And I was like, hang on a second, why do I feel so in control of my own life? Why do I feel like I have so much agency now? And that was because every Friday for the last 6 months, I've been reviewing the week and thinking, how do I feel about how I've performed this week? What is my opinion about the work that I've done? What is my view about what I said I was going to do and what I did? And that's all that's really mattered. Not some boss, not some mentor, not some outside perspective, not a client, not my family members. What's my opinion of me? And that's a process. It's structural discipline. Every Friday I do it. I review the week. I look at wins, like lessons, challenges, struggles. What have I grown? Where have I grown? Where have I held myself back? I ask a number of different questions. And then I forecast into next week. And this is where it's so important. If I don't forecast into the following week, I've got nothing to measure against in terms of my word. And now what I've started to do is like thread those together, like get the Friday forecast up and then measure against what I said I was going to do. And that can be built into your week, your month, your year. And that is how we replace external validation. We build a drumbeat where we can start to validate ourselves, our thoughts, emotions, our commitments. We become self-sufficient, really, really helpful. And then finally, and this is, I think, one of the most important parts, it's developed through action, not thought. It's not a conceptual process building inner authority. You don't just, like, going back to that plant medicine journey, it wasn't me just going, oh my gosh, I can see masculinity different. Oh my gosh, I've got a different relationship with my dad. I had to start making decisions. And it wasn't just making decisions, it was taking action after having made the decision. Because I believe that people don't make decisions and then they don't take action. What happens is we push decision-making off into the future and we fear the future, we get anxious, we get worried, and then we sometimes hope and wish that we don't actually ever have to make that decision. But then our life becomes reactive. It becomes ill-disciplined. We lose agency. We are controlled by other people. Things don't get done in our business. We're not a great leader. Whereas when we start to make decisions, we start to build that trust muscle that we can make decisions. And then when we've made them and we move into action, what starts to happen is we start to really trust that I will make a decision and then I will take action. And that improves self-trust, which is also known as confidence, self-trust. I intensely trust that not only can I make a decision, that I will follow up with action. And when I start building that make a promise, keep a promise circle of trust, the circle of trust grows, and so does my inner authority. So this is the process how you can drive yourself to stop seeking permission, approval, guidance, and you become so much of a better leader when you do this. There's so many things that have happened positively in my life when I've started to do this as well. And I want to share this before I go, is that I believe that coaching is probably the best modality for this. Now, the reason why I believe coaching is so powerful and good coaching is powerful for building inner authority, you need someone to hold you in those uncomfortable spaces to make decisions. You need to have somebody who, especially if you struggle with this, who will not tell you what to do, who will ask you good questions, who will lead you and also allow you to lead yourself, who will be in that journey with you. Whereas the problem with just going by in a blueprint, a mentorship, a business structure, and putting it into your life, yourself, your business, your relationship, whatever it might be, is that, again, you're outsourcing to the external. So be very mindful for that. Find yourself a good coach who's able to extract from you your decisions instead of pushing. Sometimes, like, actually sometimes this is necessary when you've actually got no decision-making capabilities, like someone just helps you move into some kind of momentum. But at the same time, over the macro experience of being coached and being led, what we're trying to do is build inner authority. Hopefully this has been super helpful. If you found it helpful, like the session, comment if something that's really resonated with where you're at right now in your life and your leadership. And if you can subscribe to the channel if it's been helpful, and I will see you on the next session. Take care.